Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. We are here in my favorite filming spot location, and this one is a special one, near and dear and very close to my heart. The reason why is this video is being brought to you by our very own Stephen Flood of Stephen Flood Photography. Guess why? This is his new car. This is Stephen's 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness in a beautiful shade of blue known as sapphire blue. But before we get into his new off-roading capable Subaru, let's talk about what's going on here. Take me back to 2013. Why? That was the birth of the Crosstrek. Now back in 2013, it was literally called the XV Crosstrek. And what's interesting is that if you looked in other parts around the world, they just called it the XV. So kind of interesting, the whole naming property behind the vehicle. What's very good to hear is that they eventually, of course, dropped the whole XV. I think that wasn't even needed, and they just called it the Crosstrek. Now, originally, back in 2013, Subaru took their Impreza wagon and basically lifted it a little bit. And that was the birth of the Crosstrek. Now, if you talk to Subaru, and I have, and you mention the Crosstrek, they're saying that this is a bespoke vehicle in their lineup, that it is not an Impreza wagon, that this is very unique all to itself, especially with the recent generation with the redesign. Now, we already brought you the Crosstrek, the Crosstrek Sport, and yes, we've even done the Crosstrek Wilderness. But this one, like I said, is extra special because this is Stephen's very own Crosstrek Wilderness that he just picked up. So what I want to find out is, if you're looking for a compact crossover SUV, because that's what Subaru's calling this, they're not calling it a wagon, even though technically I like to think of it as a lifted wagon, but a compact crossover SUV, do you go Crosstrek Wilderness or do you say go Toyota RAV4 TRD? Let's go ahead. Let's dive into Stephen's Crosstrek Wilderness and find out. Right off the bat, I think Stephen did it so right by picking sapphire blue. They have some really good colors. Another favorite is geyser blue. That is the Wilderness edition specific color. But I think this sapphire blue, it just does something to make my heart pitter patter. Now at the front of the business, you'll see a lot of the new styling that's found on all the Crosstreks. And that's gonna be in the headlight housing. They really shrunk it down. They gave full LED turn signals, projector beam headlights, which are active and adaptive, which means they move with the steering wheel, and LED daytime running lamps. Now, as we work our way down, you'll notice that you're gonna get some really heavy duty cladding, and that's the purpose of this vehicle for off-roading. You're also gonna get these Gatling gun inspired LED fog lamps. I love the round fog lamp style. I really think it plays a good homage to their rallying efforts from Subaru, and rather than have like a rectangle or a square, this style I think just really fits the attitude of the Crosstrek Wilderness and the other Wilderness. Remember, there's a Forester Wilderness, and of course there is an Outback Wilderness. Now you'll notice how they kind of carve out that lower bumper area just to give you more ground clearance, more space. And then as we come across the front grille area, it's all about that Constellation. Love the history behind the Subaru badge. The first time a Subaru was sold in the United States, actually, I should say North America, was back in 1969. And if you've ever heard of a car in the 1970s called the Bricklin, which had gull-wing doors and almost looked like a DeLorean, but it wasn't a DeLorean, it was called a Bricklin. That was made by Malcolm Bricklin, who is actually the man responsible for bringing Subaru to North America all the way back in the late 60s. Now you do have full functionality, flat black grille. You'll notice these nice shiny gold accents, and you'll notice some arrows. Those arrows mean that you could take these off and you actually have recovery tow hook locations that can be utilized in case you need to pull a 4Runner TRD out of the mud. Ground clearance. You'll see how much higher the lower grille area is, which it is functional. With that functionality, You got to make sure it's nice and high so it doesn't take damage. We have 9.3 inches of ground clearance. And if you're wondering, well, Joe, what's a standard Crosstrek? Regular Crosstrek has about 8.7. So quite a bit more ground clearance. It's actually class leading the amount of ground clearance that you're getting with this Crosstrek Wilderness. Now, as we rise up, that beautiful sapphire blue sparkles like a blue diamond. And then I'm really digging how they have the anti-glare flat black strip in the center there. That's gonna cut down the amount of glare that hits you from behind the wheel. As we come around the bend, what are we working with? Wheel and tire setup. So these wheels and tires are specific to the Crosstrek Wilderness. 17-inch wheel. Love the way they gave it a nice off-road style, flat black, V-spoke design. And then you'll notice that we have real deal Yokohama Geolander all-terrain tires. You see the shielding? These are real deal. They're not just some wheel and that's it. You're actually getting some off-road cred with these tires, but yet they're still very good to drive on the road. And if you're wondering, well, Joe, what's the size? 225 on the width, 60 series sidewall, and of course, we have Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system, getting the power to the ground, all four corners, all the time. Now, with this being the Wilderness, a little bit more cladding, I like it. I think it gives it a nice purposeful look. If you compare it to the RAV4 TRD, I kind of think that one's a little bit of a pretender. Because remember, it's a TRD off-road. It's not off-road pro. This is pro level with the suspension tuning, the cladding, and everything else that they did. Now, as we come down the side, we got our very classy Subaru Wilderness badge. I like the way they went flat gray on the mirror caps. You have your LED turn signals. And then up top, you have that very unique style, more aerodynamic style to the roof rails, the gold accents, tie it all in with the other little pieces of gold. It's not too gaudy, it's just right. That Crosstrek name, nice and bold. Look how high the cladding is, so you don't have to worry about that beautiful sapphire blue getting all scratched up. We even have color matched on the door handles. Now, working our way towards the rear of the vehicle, same thing. Look at the way they have to carve out this little nook here to give access to the fuel door. And then coming around back, this is where, just like up front, it's very aggressive and purposeful, even more so. You have a nice long roof spoiler. And I'm not going to zonk it because Subarus always have an exposed wiper. That's just something that they love to do. You have your LED taillights, but we do have the old-fashioned Thomas Edison light bulbs. I wish that was LED, so I am going to zonk that. Our Subaru Wilderness badge, of course. And just like up front, we have a beefy bumper area. I love the way they stamped the Subaru name in the back. It almost looks like some type of rally car that is Subaru factory entered in a rally race. Of course, also like up front, you could pop out the gold rectangular sections, and there's gonna be tow recovery locations in case you need to unstick a 4Runner TRD off-road. And then look at the amount of ground clearance. I mean, the muffler and exhaust is high out of the way. You could actually see the lower control arms, beefy lower control arms down below. And that differential is important for me to bring up because guess what? They actually changed the gearing. This has 411 gears to give you a little bit more oomph off the line or when you're going down that off-road area. And then on top of it, I like the way they blacked out Crosstrek and symmetrical all-wheel drive just to give it a nice cohesive style to it. But why don't we go ahead? We talked about the exterior of Stevens Crosstrek Wilderness. Let's pop the hood and see what's powering it. All right, guys, we got the hood popped. Another thing that I love about Subarus is when you pop the hood, you can actually see the engine. Now, underneath the hood, we have that flat 4 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. And you can see how low it sits in the engine cradle up front. We have our intake plenum with our intake runners, our 4 runners for being in a flat 4. You got your throttle body. You can even see things like your alternator. You can see where your oil filter is located. Everything is easily visible, and I love that about Subarus just in general. Now, if you're comparing this to a Toyota RAV4, it also has a 4-cylinder, but it's an inline 4, not a flat 4. This is going to have a lower center of gravity with the flat 4, and that's something that Subaru is known for. So you're looking at a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated inline four pumping out 182 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque. It is mated to a CVT, and don't expect to win any drag races because 0 to 60 is 8.6 seconds. But that is not the purpose of this vehicle. Top speed is 129 miles per hour. It weighs 3,447 pounds, but here's the kicker. Even with full all-time all-wheel drive, you're looking at about 25 mpgs in the city, 29 on the highway. And that's something that is mind-blowing for an all-wheel drive vehicle to have that kind of fuel economy. But why don't we go ahead, let's fire up Steven's Crosstrek and see it roll. Guys, we are inside this 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness, and it's not just any Crosstrek Wilderness. This is Steven's Crosstrek Wilderness. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, Joe, how much is this? Because I looked at Toyota RAV4 TRD off-roads, I've looked at CRVs, I've looked at even Mazda CX-50s. They're not cheap. How much is this? Well, your search is over. MSRP for the way that this one is spec'd out is $37,000. Let's see how it stacks up to the competition. To the door panels. I love the two-tone, and it's not in-your-face two-tone. You have that dark gray with the gold stitching that ties in the gold from the outside. Some faux carbon fiber, but you know what? I think it works in this Crosstrek Wilderness. No gloss black, so you don't have to worry about fingerprints. Door pocket is a little tight. Maybe a hot pocket and a bottle of root beer to wash it down. We do have the Harman Kardon sound system. And then going from the door panel to the dash, same thing. The two-tone, a little bit of faux carbon fiber, not a big deal. Slide on in, you're gonna get that standard 11.6-inch infotainment system. We've shown it to you on other Subaru vehicles. What I do like about it is that you have lots of different things to show, and you can see how Steven has his set up to show the angle when he's going off-roading. But you got your water temp, oil temp. We could look at the weather, but what's better is check this out. Now you could go in your X mode. So I like to be able to go snow and dirt, deep snow and mud. Those are specific to the Wilderness Edition. So really nice like that. You could go into parking, select your locations. I mean, we can even check on sports teams. Fuel prices. Really cool to have that kind of readout. Another little icon you could hit on the touchscreen is the little car, and that allows you to set up all your preferences as well. So easy to navigate through. I'm glad that they have some physical knobs for the radio controls and for the dual climate. My one zonk is that other AC controls are inside the screen. So not my favorite, especially when you first turn the vehicle on. And to get home, we're right there. And there's your different apps. So nice to have that easy setup. Down below, you got a USB-C, USB-A, aux jack, wireless charging. This is going to control your CVT with the gold stitching and a little bit of gloss black, but you do have 2 stages of heated seats, 2 cup holders, a 12 volt, and then you got a place where Steven usually keeps his Twinkie, but as you can see, he already put his Twinkie in his mouth and ate it. There's your Subaru key fob. Still looking good. They haven't changed this key fob in a while, and it still looks nice. That light gray with the gold stitching looks wonderful. Open this up. Steven's got enough room in there to where he could put his Gundam collection. So I don't know if you're aware, but Steven is huge into Gundam. He actually has pajamas that are Gundam. His lunchbox is Gundam. He even has a Gundam helmet that sometimes he wears when he's driving. He could keep his Gundam figurines in there. He told me they're worth a lot of money. I don't know if I should believe him. The seats, love the way it's got the Subaru Wilderness embossed in the headrest. Nice grippy material, but it doesn't feel like cloth. It's like wetsuit material. You do have, of course, manual seat controls for the passenger, but the good news is for Steven at least, he has electric seat controls. And just remember, you could actually adjust the seats up and down. So if you get in a Crosstrek Wilderness and your head is hitting the headliner, that's not how it's supposed to be. Lower the seat. And then on top of that, we have a nice standard size sunroof, and I like the way they went dark on the headliner. But why don't you come over here behind the business end where Steven likes to wear his Gundam helmet and drive his Crosstrek Wilderness. Come on over. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel of Steven's Crosstrek Wilderness. You do have those seat controls, easy to get to. I love the gold stitching and the two-tone. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm actually a little bigger than Steven is, a little taller. He's a little bit more muscular, but you know, he likes his medium shirts and everything. But lots of room in here for me and for him. The leather on the steering wheel is really nice with the gold stitching, a little bit of that gold finish. I like the way they kind of tied that all in together. Flat black on the switchgear. You do have paddles to go through simulated gears with the CVT, and you do have a manual tilting and telescoping steering wheel. And then I love the fact that you have analog gauges, analog tach, speedometer, fuel gauge, and coolant gauge, and you'll notice that they're surrounded by a little bit of gold trim. You also have your SI drive, so you got your 2 different drive modes, which are really nice as well. But other than that, very nicely appointed. Let's get in the back seat and see how Steven's friends and Gundam fans are gonna like riding with him in this Crosstrek Wilderness. All right, guys, back seat time. I like on the door panels how you still have the two-tone, the gray with the black. They even did the gold stitching on the armrest. Backs of the seats, I like the way it's all black. Easy to keep clean. You got a decent sized pocket back here. This is where you want to keep a map, maybe an atlas or two. And then, of course, on the back of the center console here, you have a USB-C, USB-A, no AC vents. That would have been the one last missing piece, is just to have 2 small AC vents. But the space back here is not small, not even close to that headliner. And I like the fact that, let's see if I can, there we go. You got a nice soft armrest, the 2 cup holders. You can put a couple Frappa Lappa Crappas here from Starbucks. People waste so much money on that. I used to tell my students, if you're spending $5 a day on a stupid cappuccino Frappa Lappa, 5 times 5 is 25 in a week. 4 weeks in a month, that's $100 a month you're pissing right down the drain. Literally pissing down the drain. But why don't we go ahead, let's check out the cargo area, because I want to go for a drive in Steven's Crosstrek. All right, guys, time to get into the rear hatch area. Real simple, you're going to hit the button, and then you got to use just a little bit of muscle to lift it up. What you're going to be greeted to is such a usable amount of space. Now, first of all, I love the way Steven has the all-weather protection with the Subaru Wilderness badge in the back. He even has that protection on the backs of the seats, because folding the seats down is where you're going to maximize the space. So with the seats up, you're looking at 20 cubic feet of space. Fold the seats down, you have 55 cubic feet of space. I love the way it's got these bottle holders for Steven's big Yeti cans that he likes to put all of his nutritious drinks in. And let's see if Subaru is hooking up Steven. Yes, so you do get a spare as well. Nice to see. The seats obviously do a 60-40 split, and you got that nice plastic protection on the backs of the seats. But you know what? It's about that time. Steven gave me the keys. He gave me the big thumbs up. Go ahead. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go for a spin in Steven's Crosstrek Wilderness. All right, guys, we are behind the wheel of Steven's 2024 Sapphire Blue Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. And we're gonna get out onto the road and show how this vehicle handles. And of course, I have it in sport mode. I hit the SI button to go into sport. And if you're ready, I'm ready. On throttle, here we go. So the good news is that the way the transmission behaves, even though it's a CVT, Subaru did a pretty darn good job with tuning the simulated shifts. The good news about that is that you're not gonna get any kind of crazy drone whatsoever from the engine, because it allows the RPM to drop and feel like a traditional torque converter automatic transmission. Now, if you're wondering why does Subaru still use a CVT, obviously not my favorite transmission, but it does help with their MPGs. And the fact that you're getting 25 in the city is really telling for a vehicle like this. And the CVT helps get those higher numbers. And about 29 on the highway is very, very good for a vehicle with full-time all-wheel drive. Now, all of the benefits that we talked about with the standard Crosstrek comes into this Crosstrek Wilderness. So what does that mean? That means you're gonna get the steering rack from the WRX. You're gonna get that electric brake booster that's gonna help with braking feedback and feel and quality of braking. And then things like the sound deadening material, they made the chassis more rigid, which cuts down on all the noise and vibration harshness entering in the cabin. And right away, you're gonna feel the benefits. I mean, just rolling out of the parking lot that we were in, I was like, wow, this reminds me how good this new redesigned Crosstrek chassis is. It's 30% more rigid than the previous gen. Now, for some of you, I know you're gonna be crying that there's no digital gauges, but like I said, I like the old school analog feel. You have that 4.5-inch digital display in the center, which allows you to scroll through different information. And another thing I'm very impressed about with this Crosstrek Wilderness is you're not compromising on noise. So even though you have the Yokohama Geolandar tires, they are gonna create a little bit more noise than your standard tire on a standard Crosstrek or Crosstrek Sport, but it's nothing where you're just like, man, I wish I didn't go with the Crosstrek Wilderness. So you're gonna get some extra bite when you go off-roading, but you don't have to worry about it driving you nuts while you're driving on your daily commute. Same thing with those roof rails. The way they design the roof rails is to cut down on wind noise. But visibility is great. You have all the safety features, especially this one right here. What's that? The eyesight technology, which they made it a lot smaller, the unit, and it is probably one of the top 3 available on any modern new car in the market. This thing has a safety rating of a 5-star plus. You can see the lane departure. It really gives you a nice heads up because it wants you to keep and stay safe. But visibility is great. Seats are comfy. I know Steven has voiced his concerns about the headrests being a little too hard. I told him to get a headrest pillow or something, but for me, I don't know, it feels like almost any other car, so it doesn't bother me. But Steven is the owner, so definitely ask him in the comment section if it's not worth it getting the Crosstrek Wilderness because of the headrest. But going down the road, I don't have to worry about glare because we have that beautiful anti-glare strip on the hood. Gives it a nice look, but it also is a functional thing. Everything is well within reach, and the fact that you have wireless charging is another nice addition inside this Crosstrek Wilderness. All right, guys, from a slow roll on throttle, here we go. So like I said, the simulated shifts are pretty darn good for a CVT transmission, and I like the way you're not getting any fake noise pumped in. The noise that you heard is the actual flat 4 naturally aspirated engine. Another thing that is really smart about Subaru is that flat 4 itself. Because of the lower center of gravity, it really makes handling really nice. Even with this being a raised up Crosstrek with 9.3 inches of ground clearance, it drives phenomenal and really is gonna make you feel confident behind the wheel. But I hope that this has been a good overall review of Steven's brand new Crosstrek Wilderness. I know Steven wants me to hand the keys back over to him because he's got to get down to the flea market to get his next Gundam action figure. So we need to give him the keys so he doesn't miss out on that deal. And I'll see you in a split second. All right, guys, been another great day in so many ways. You know who we have to thank. Steven Flood Photography. I'm going to put his Instagram handle somewhere right now in this video. I put at the beginning too, so that you can follow him on Instagram, see his journeys, see all the adventures that Steven has and all the pictures he likes to post. He likes to think of Instagram as back in the day when it was just about pictures, not about Insta Reels. But anyways, gotta congratulate Steven on his Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. But now let's get down to the nitty gritty, right? What do you think? Let Steven know in the comment section if you like the Crosstrek Wilderness, or would you rather spend your money on the RAV4 TRD off-road? Let me know which way you're gonna go. But if you're new to the channel and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Raised Rides family. And yes, even though I thanked Steven already for giving us access to his Crosstrek Wilderness, of course we need to thank him for helping us film his Crosstrek Wilderness. So thank you, Steven, for your hard work. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.